Speaking to Razia Khan from Standard Chartered Bank a little bit earlier in the day. In fact, it's been a long and busy day for Devon Morrigan because we're crossing to him now to see what kind of a day he's had. Devon, a very good morning, good evening to you. I know it's been a long day for you and you've been watching many things at the same time. But I suppose one of the most important conversations took place a short while ago with the Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba. What came out of that conversation?
Peter, good evening. Indeed, it was a long day. That conversation with the Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba, ending just moments ago. And you're just browsing through Twitter now to see some of the reaction. And the Minister, I must say, was convincing this evening and answered some of those questions put forward to him by a veteran journalist in the US and the UK quite convincingly. Malusi Gigaba telling us that the government is strict on moving forward with policy certainty, trying to lure investors here. He said primarily in order for this country to really work on that growth would be to actually bring up black industrialists, a big part of the plan. He spoke quite a bit about education and the promotion of education among young people. Ratings agencies also giving his word to saying that the government is at every turn doing its very best to try and convince these agencies that government is indeed on a trajectory that wants to see this economy grow. And that pretty much ended the conversation with him about 5 minutes ago, so we're bound to see a lot of reaction to that in the coming few hours. But let me turn to another minister, the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa, with me now to try and see what practicality we can get on the ground as far as getting growth growing through programs. Minister, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. All right, so I went on a Transnet trip this morning, and I heard that the CEO, Siyabonga Gama, talk to us about how Transnet can get involved in the oceans economy, and that's one way in which we can see jobs created and the economy grow. You share that sentiment? I mean, is it does some positivity really lie in the oceans economy to that extent?
Well, thank you for having. I just want to start by saying that the oceans economy is actually a reality.
Yeah.
It's part of the 9-point plan that was announced by the President as being part of stimulating the economic growth in South Africa. So what the Minister of Finance actually spoke about, perhaps at high level, we then need to right now unpack that at a practical level, what is happening. You say, Siyabonga Gama indicated that it can create jobs as a program of oceans economy. No, it's already begun creating jobs. So way back in 2010, President instructed us as ministers to work on this program of oceans economy because indeed South Africa has got one of the longest shoreline, which is about just under 4,000 kilometers. And we're not doing anything, and we didn't do anything about that. So we looked at, fast forward, what can be done in the oceans economy space. We came out with 7 sectors possible. We eliminated those to 4, and now we added the 5th one. What are those? Siyabonga Gama's institution, which is Transnet, is in the first pillar that I'm going to talk about, which is this pillar of manufacturing, transport, and expansion of the ports. So that program is actually ongoing now. You saw the President practically going to launch an expansion in Port Elizabeth, here in Durban, deep port. There's a lot of work that has been done in Western Cape, a lot of work that is. So we are looking at even the harbors, expansion of the harbors, to free movement of goods, to manufacture boats and ships, our own catamarans that are ships that are being fixed. I mean, they're being manufactured, local content, full South African content. And that would sort of also help us to get the previously disadvantaged or the role players, entrepreneurs in the space of ship repairs, which is a big industry, by the way. We have over 3,000 vessels that passes our shores or land on our shores per annum, and they are not being fixed here. So it's that, and it's also the question of the next sector is aquaculture, which we are doing. There are projects where production is happening already. There are issues around a program around offshore oil and gas. We haven't really quite dealt with that quite a lot because of the price issue of the price that was a problem of oil and gas in particular, so the industry didn't grow.
But if I could just step in there, Minister, because we get the point and we can see inclusive growth trickling from all of these initiatives that you were talking about. I want to move to renewable energy here. I mean, this is such a big part of this conference. On the one hand, electrifying, powering communities demonstrates a modern economy, but at the same time there's environmental consequences, implications of that. How do you reconcile both of them in a context like this?
Yeah, we have actually done our homework in South Africa, by the way. The fact that we have our first integrated renewable energy plan that talked to renewables that had to be to the tune of 42% production in South Africa, and actually build up that gradually up to the year 2030. That is in the plan. So we have agreed and accepted that particularly without hydro, the sun, that's the solar energy, as well as the wind in particular, because hydro just uses up a lot of water. So that part of energy production, going together with coal, with gas, with this mixed energy plan is in that plan. So we are continuing full steam with it. And there's no tension, in fact, as far as it's just a question of talking to ourselves as South Africans, because the international world there understand exactly, that's why we are world leaders in the renewables in particular, and also producing coal. But our process will ensure that by the year 2030, 2035, we begin plateauing, and then we begin declining after 2035 of using coal and using other what could be called energy that's not quite clean, because by that time we shall have had ample time to build our alternatives. We shall having gas in place, which is clean energy. We shall be having probably also nuclear, which we want is clean energy, by the way, as well. So that building of the new energy mix and clean energy mix is part of this process, whilst we'll be beginning to decline a bit on usage of coal. We will not dump it completely, but we'll decline a bit on usage.
I mean, the question invariably comes up, if we have these renewable energies that do the trick, why then do we pursue nuclear in the first place?
Well, by the way, it's an energy mix. And the kind of alternative energy that we're talking about, remember, we need a base load. If you have wind, one day you may not actually have wind, and you need energy security so that you store. And therefore, the mix of energy, when you don't have wind, when you don't have a sun one day, or enough sun to actually produce that, then you have another. We are, most unfortunately, at this point in time, not like Europeans. Remember, Germany produces a lot of alternative in the form of wind and solar. But France produces nuclear. So they do power pooling. Other produce coal, Poland, and so forth. So they do power pooling. Ourselves as South Africa, unfortunately, we are supplying energy to our neighbors as well. So we are not yet at that stage. If we're at that stage, we would say maybe we can actually give away nuclear. Maybe we can give away something that gets produced by Botswana, Tanzania, or whoever.
Minister, my final question, a big press conference by you tomorrow on the circular economy. I mean, this basically talks about an economy that recycles itself. I mean, I've just got a few seconds, but what's the main theme of your message tomorrow?
Very excited indeed. We are saying South Africa, the circular economy is the way to go. Natural resources are infinite, are not finite. They are very scarce, and we should actually reuse. And we can reuse. It has been proven in the bottled industry. They reuse, and they don't go digging from time to time. So our people, and there's money in there, by the way. Now that we have let's talk money. There's industrialists that come out of it. I've launched quite a number of companies that are doing recycling, even above ground mining. So let's go for it. In all respects, we will not see litter, we will not see waste and landfill sites if we really go for this particular industry. We do believe that it's a future with right technologies, which we are still having, and looking for more that are actually user-friendly and less costly. We will really just see, quite a lot of growth in this sector.
Thanks very much indeed, Minister of Environmental Affairs, Edna Molewa. That's where we leave it for the WEF, or the WEF Forum here in Durban for this evening. Peter, back to you.
Devon Morgan, thank you very much indeed, and that's someone we'll certainly be hearing a lot more from in the coming days, discussing very important issues affecting the continent, a continent that's challenged with growth drama, slumping commodity prices, and of course inclusive growth being the main topic in there. Minister Molewa talking about the blue economy, hopefully being able to contribute to dealing with some of those issues.
So many issues, and always protest groups use these events. A march today by the People's Economic Forum was underway, with marches moving from the Durban City Hall to the International Convention Centre. March organisers say they want to highlight anti-WEF sentiment, with citizens calling for greater